L, what you got on deck for us next, man?
Man, this particular story that I'm pulling up here, I'm really getting tired of having these conversations about these types of stories. Um, it's really beginning to be more and more difficult to navigate this world when it comes to dealing with stories such as what has taken place to young Rasheem Carter.
It's clear that family members and friends want someone to be held accountable for the death of 25-year-old Rasheem Carter.
This was not a natural death. This represents a young man who was killed.
Well-known civil rights attorney Ben Crump gives the gruesome details on how the Jefferson County man was found.
His head was severed from his body. His vertebrae, his spinal cord, was in another spot they discovered away from his severed head. They have recently found remains that they believe are also Rasheem Carter.
Carter was last seen outside a Super 8 hotel at the beginning of October in Laurel, which is half an hour from where he had been contracted to work in Taylorsville at Georgia Pacific. Remains believed to be his were found on November 2nd. Those close to Carter say he was being threatened by people he knew.
He was dutifully and gainfully employed, just trying to make a living for his young child, and ends up dead, chased by what we believe to be white supremacists, a lynch mob.
In fact, Carter's mother, Tiffany Carter, says he even let her know about it during one of his last text messages to her right before he went missing.
He said, me and the owner of this company not seeing eye to eye, mama. His name, which I can't say at this time, but if anything happened to me, he's responsible for it. I'm too smart, mama. He got these guys wanting to kill me.
But they say what's even more alarming is the fact that someone attempted to use Carter's credit card even after it was determined that he was dead.
And we believe that is a big clue. Think about it. The person who had his credit card is likely to have encountered him while he was alive. And it shouldn't have to be this difficult for this broken-hearted mother to get answers.
Last October, Rasheem Carter told Taylorsville, Mississippi police that he had been chased by truckloads. Now listen to that, ladies and gentlemen. He had been chased by truckloads, that's with an S, of white men yelling racial slurs at him. Days later, Carter was officially reported missing. His remains were found a month later, just a mile south of town. In a statement posted to Facebook at the time, the Smith County Sheriff's Office, where Taylorsville is located, said that there was no reason to believe that foul play was involved. This young man and his family went to these very police and reported that truckloads of white men chased him and was calling him racial slurs. A month later, goes missing. Another month later, his body is found. Parts of his body are found, and he is found decapitated. But this very same police department, where their initial report was given and placed and taken, is saying they have no reason to believe that foul play was involved.
One of the colleagues that he had, because he doesn't have a car, so one of the colleagues at the job was actually transporting him back and forth to work. But because of the beef that he had with the boss, that person then took up beef with him and stopped transporting him, stopped picking him up to go to work. So he called his cousin and told his cousin, hey, I need a ride to go to work. She dropped him off and she waited at their pickup spot for him, and he never showed up. She reported him missing the next day. It wasn't but a couple of months later that they found his dismembered body, and the police, being as disrespectful as they were, gave his mother his head and his spinal cord in a box. It was like, Yeah, here you go. This is what we could find. You can take that and do what you want with it.
It's unreal. It's just it's absolutely unreal. I can't imagine the pain she's going through, and I can only send send whatever strength I have left to her through something so incredibly traumatic and incredibly infuriating. Just incredibly infuriating. It's just 2022.
I don't want to go too far off on a tangent, and we
Right.
have this conversation often enough.
Right.
But once
right.
again, you know that Ben Crump is the
Yeah.
lead on this case.
Right.
I'm not ignorant to think that he really does this for altruistic reasons. He has to be getting something from this. What that is, I can speculate all day, but I don't think it's as clear cut as what many people would lead you to believe.
Right.
With that being said, I'm glad that he exists in this realm. Because I don't know, it wasn't until the family brought it up to him and he started making noise about it that the Vice even came to come and talk about this. Nobody knew that this case existed. Go ahead, El. I see. I know you. It bubbles in your ass.
I see your point, right? I see where you're going with that, but I think also, unfortunately, whether it's intentional or not, he often is a stopgap for families to get some sort of justice, right? He gets a chance to bring these cases to the light. He gets a chance to get people talking about it. But unfortunately and sadly, that's often where these cases stop. They stop at the headlines on Vice. They don't go any further than that. And that's not necessarily saying anything disparaging about Crump. I have my own personal views of the dude, but I don't want that to sully this point here. I think it's the nature of the monster that we're up against. I hate the story. There's not a component or a place or a part of the story that ever provides me with any hope that things are going to change, that they have changed, that there's nothing. I think our collective responses to this is also as discouraging as the actual acts that we have when we have Black people who are directly connected to the families saying things like, well, I don't think the police had any involvement in this. Those types of things are incredibly difficult to hear because while we are not able to pinpoint and say, yes, the police did indeed conspire with these truckloads of white men to murder and decapitate this young brother, what we can say is that the police were culpable in his death, meaning that they knew that there had been threats of violence and terrorism towards this young brother. And based off of the reports that we're reading, not only in Vice, but in other media outlets, they did nothing to investigate and stop this. So I don't even know what to say as far as how do we proceed? Where do we go? What do we do? Because again, another instance of us facing white terrorism and being victims of white terrorism where we've done the right thing. We went home, we told our parents what we're going through. That's what they always said. Tell your parents. We go home, we tell our parents.
Be vocal, yeah.
Be vocal about it. Our parents give us good instructions and good wisdom on how to handle it. Go tell the police. We go tell the police, and yet and still, less than a month later, we end up missing. So where is the encouragement at here? Where is the hope in this? Where do people find faith in these situations? If you are a person of faith, how do you proceed with moments of your faith when you see this taking place time and
Yeah.
time again.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Part of the dilemma also with the sheriff, I forget the sheriff's name that's leading this whole thing, is that the men at his job
Yep.
that has already been reported that they were giving him a hard time. He's essentially publicly exonerated them. Basically said that they're no longer under investigation because they don't believe that they were around the area where his body was found within that time period when he had died or whatever. So he's basically openly said that those guys aren't the guys, even though there isn't enough evidence at this point to say that it is or not, and it hasn't gone to trial. You don't just that. I mean, if anybody knows anything about legal cases, you don't do that. You don't do that. But here we have it. Not only were you slow to come to the realization that he was actually murdered, but now you're already crossing possible suspects off the list before anything has even gotten off the ground. So we see where this is